The first signal came from the outer rim. A mining colony on the planet Ridgepoint had gone silent. At first, Command thought it was a power failure, maybe another dust storm. But when the second, third, and fourth colony stopped transmitting, people started to panic. From orbit, the last drone feed showed chaos. Buildings burning, metal torn apart like paper, shapes moving fast through the smoke. Shapes that didn't look human. No one could tell what they were, only that they were large, fast, and full of rage. Then the feed cut to black. Hours later, the Galactic Security Council received a transmission from the Zarth Dominion, a powerful alien empire known for their cruelty. Their message was short, cold, arrogant. Surrender your outer colonies. The Zarth Dominion now commands this region. Resistance will meet our newest creation, the apex beasts. The aliens had unleashed something new, something unstoppable. Reports from the neighboring systems came in fast. Every military force that faced the beasts was wiped out. Entire cities gone within hours. No survivors. The Zarth called them the perfect soldiers. But to everyone else, they were monsters. On Earth, panic spread like wildfire. The news channels replayed the same horrifying images. Tall, black shapes moving through fire. Eyes glowing with a pale light. They tore tanks apart with claws. They moved faster than bullets. Some said they weren't alive, just machines. Others said they were demons. Whatever they were, no weapon worked. The human Navy fired plasma cannons and railguns. They dropped explosives from orbit. Nothing stopped the beasts for long. Their wounds healed. Their armor-like skin grew tougher. It was as if the creatures learned from every hit. In the command center of the United Earth Defense, silence filled the room. Generals and scientists watched the footage on a giant screen, helpless. Then, an old man entered the room. His name was Dr. Aaron Holt, a retired bioengineer. He had once worked for the old Terran military lab during the early 2100s. When he saw the creatures on the screen, he froze. The color drained from his face. He whispered, almost to himself, "No, that can't be right." The generals turned toward him. "What do you mean, Doctor?" one asked. Holt didn't answer at first. He walked closer to the screen, studying the creatures frame by frame. The way they moved, the shape of their muscles, the bone structure beneath their armor. Then he said quietly, "I know those things. We made them." The room went silent. 50 years earlier, long before the age of interstellar travel, humanity had been at war with itself. Nations had fought for control, and in that chaos, secret projects were born. One of them was called Project Chimera, a program designed to create living weapons. Creatures that could survive any battlefield. Creatures that could fight without fear. Creatures that healed, adapted, and never surrendered. The scientists of that time had succeeded. Too well. The beasts they created were too aggressive, too smart, too dangerous. In one experiment, the creatures had turned on their handlers, killing dozens before being destroyed. The project was shut down, all data erased, samples burned, or so everyone believed. Now, watching the alien footage, Holt realized something terrible. The Zarth Dominion had somehow found those old human experiments. They had copied them, or worse, they had stolen them. Word spread fast across Earth's defense networks. Humans created them first. The truth hit like a bombshell. On social media, people raged and feared. How could we make something like that? Are we to blame for our own destruction? Governments denied responsibility. Military leaders ordered full secrecy. But the truth was already out. Dr. Holt met with the Earth Council. His message was clear. These creatures, the apex beasts, are built from our designs. That means they have human DNA somewhere in them. And if they do, Then we can find a way to stop them. The Council gave him authority to restart Project Chimera. But there was one problem. No one knew how the Zarth had rebuilt the beasts. The data was long gone. Somewhere in deep space, the aliens had recovered something humanity thought was lost forever. Meanwhile, in the Ridgepoint system, the survivors tried to hold out. A single distress ship escaped and broadcast a message to all nearby channels. The pilot's voice trembled with fear. "This is Commander Reese of the Ridgepoint Defense. The creatures, they're everywhere. Our weapons do nothing. They tear through walls, armor, anything. And they learn. Every time we fight, they move smarter, faster. I think they understand us." Static filled the transmission. Then one final whisper came through. "They don't kill everyone. They take some alive." The signal ended. Back on Earth, the scientist replayed those words again and again. "Alive," he muttered. Why would the aliens keep humans alive? What were they doing with them? Theories filled the air. Breeding, experiments, mind control. No one had answers. But Holt knew one thing. If the aliens were experimenting, then they might be trying to improve the beasts even more. And if that was true, time was running out. In the dark of space, far beyond any human radar, alien ships moved silently. Inside them, rows of the apex beasts rested in cages, their eyes glowing in the shadows. Each heartbeat echoed like thunder. Each breath, a promise of destruction. And deep within their DNA, a spark remained. Something human, something waiting to wake up. The news of Ridgepoint's fall spread faster than light. Every world with a human flag began to fear the same fate. In a matter of days, communication networks were filled with distress signals, emergency calls, and terrified voices. People saw the same thing over and over. The black beasts, their glowing eyes, and the endless screams that followed. Cities burned. Fleets vanished. The aliens had unleashed a nightmare that no one could stop. In orbit around Earth, the United Defense Command gathered its top minds. Generals, scientists, and fleet admirals filled the war room. The massive holographic table showed red markers spreading like blood across the star map. Each red light meant a world that had gone dark. General Rhodes slammed his fist against the table. "They're moving too fast. If we don't stop them now, they'll reach Earth within a month." A young officer spoke softly. "Sir, our weapons can't stop them. Not for long." No one wanted to admit the truth, but everyone already knew it. Humanity was outmatched. Dr. Aaron Holt stood at the edge of the room, staring at the hologram. He had told them the truth. The aliens had stolen old human experiments. But no one understood what that truly meant. Those creatures were not just weapons. They were alive. They could think, feel, and evolve. He turned to the generals. "If these beasts share human DNA," he said, "then they can be reasoned with or controlled. But we need to find their signal origin. Someone is commanding them." Rhodes narrowed his eyes. "You think the Zarth are remote controlling them?" Holt nodded. "Exactly. No creature coordinates that perfectly on its own." The general leaned forward. "Then find me that signal, Doctor, because until you do, we're fighting ghosts." While Earth's leaders planned, life on the frontier became a nightmare. Refugees filled spaceports, begging for ships to take them away. Fathers shouted for their children. Mothers cried for lost families. The military tried to hold order, but fear ruled everything. A soldier named Captain Lara Voss watched the panic unfold on Titan Station. Her squad was tasked with guarding the evac lines. Every day, more broken ships arrived, filled with injured and silent survivors. One man grabbed her arm, eyes wide with terror. "They can't be killed," he said. "I shot one point blank in the head. It just stood up again. Do you hear me? It stood up again." Lara looked away. She had seen the recordings. She knew he wasn't lying. Back on Earth, Dr. Holt and his new research team began studying the enemy transmissions. Hours turned into days. They scanned for patterns, frequencies, anything that could explain how the beasts were being controlled. Finally, one night, a young technician shouted, "I've got something." A strange pulse echoed through the data, a repeating pattern of sound buried inside the Zarth communication streams. Not language, not code. It was something biological, like a heartbeat mixed with a command. Dr. Holt stared at the data. "It's a control rhythm," he whispered. "They're using sound to guide the creatures." He ran simulations, and every result matched the movement of the beasts on the battlefield. For the first time, they had found a weakness. Meanwhile, on the front lines near Sigma Outpost, Captain Lara's unit prepared for another defense. She looked over the small human army. Barely 200 soldiers left. The ground shook beneath them. Then came the sound, the terrible echo of claws against steel. The beasts emerged from the smoke. Dozens of them. They ran on all fours, then stood upright, roaring like thunder. The soldiers opened fire. Bullets and plasma filled the air. The beasts didn't fall. They adapted, their skin hardening, their moves faster. Lara shouted for retreat, but it was too late. One of the creatures leapt through the fire and crashed into their line. It roared, a sound so deep it felt like the air itself broke apart. Just before the creature struck her, a sudden noise cut through the chaos. A high, sharp frequency that made even the air vibrate. The beast froze mid-attack. Its eyes flickered. Then it stepped back. Lara stared in disbelief. What the hell was that? From orbit, Dr. Holt's team watched the same thing through drone feeds. He smiled faintly. It works! They respond to the control rhythm. General Rhodes immediately ordered the signal to be tested on other battlefields. One by one, the beasts hesitated, confused, retreating a few steps when the tone hit. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was a first sign of hope. Amplify the signal. Rhodes commanded, "If we can control them, we can turn this war around." Dr. Holt shook his head. "Careful, General. We don't know how much control we have. Push too far and they might adapt again." Rhodes didn't listen. Humanity was desperate. That night, as the humans prepared to broadcast a controlled tone across dozens of systems, Holt watched the stars from the lab window. He felt a deep chill in his chest. He knew the creatures too well. They weren't machines. They were living weapons. And living things always resisted control. He whispered to himself, "They'll fight back. They always do." Far away, on the alien flagship, a Zarth commander turned to his superior. "The humans have discovered the frequency, my lord." The alien smiled, cold and amused. "Good," he said. "Let them think they are winning. The real test begins now." And as the control signal pulsed through space, the beast began to change. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, hidden under miles of water and rock, lay the ruins of an old human lab, Facility Theta. It had been sealed for almost a century. The world had forgotten it ever existed. But now, humanity needed its secrets once more. Dr. Aaron Holt stood before the thick steel doors, a team of soldiers and engineers behind him. The air was cold, the lights dim. Dust floated like ghosts in the beam of his flashlight. "This is where it all began," he said quietly. Captain Lara Voss, standing beside him, frowned. "Project Chimera?" Holt nodded. "Yes, the first attempt to make the perfect soldier." The massive door hissed as it opened. Inside, the walls were covered with old warning signs. Biohazard. Restricted. Project Chimera. The team moved through the corridors, their footsteps echoing. Broken glass and rusted machines filled the rooms. Old computers flickered with dead screens. still carrying the ghost of human ambition. Lara whispered, "This place feels wrong." "It is wrong," Holt said. "We built monsters here." He led the team into the main lab. There, in the center of the room, stood a massive tank filled with dark, frozen liquid. Inside floated a shape, large, humanoid, but not quite human. The soldiers aimed their rifles. "Relax," Holt said. "It's dead, I think." He wiped frost from the glass. The face inside was twisted, almost peaceful, like something sleeping. "This was Prototype 1, Holt explained. "The first Chimera. Decades ago, before humanity reached the stars, the world was at war. Nations were desperate for any advantage. Project Chimera was born out of fear, a plan to make soldiers who could survive any condition, fight without rest, and adapt to any threat. They mixed human DNA with animal genes and synthetic compounds. They created beings with the instincts of predators and the intelligence of humans. But something went wrong. The prototypes started thinking for themselves. They began to question their purpose. When the scientists tried to terminate them, the creatures rebelled. Entire labs were destroyed before the military stepped in. The order was clear: erase everything. Burn it all. But as Holt walked through the ruins now, he realized they hadn't burned everything. Someone had kept samples, and somehow the aliens had found them. Captain Lara moved closer to the tank. So the aliens didn't create them. They just rebuilt them. "Exactly," Holt said. "They used our forgotten sins." Suddenly, one of the technicians shouted from the corner, "Doctor, you need to see this." Holt rushed over. The old computer system had come back to life, powered by portable generators. On the screen blinked a single message: "Project Chimera, final test record. Playback?" He hesitated. Then press yes. The video flickered to life. It showed a younger version of Holt, decades ago, standing beside another scientist, a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. She spoke into the camera. "The creatures have developed higher reasoning. They're calling themselves by names now. We never taught them that." Younger Holt looked nervous. "If they can think, then we've gone too far. We need to shut this down." The woman shook her head. "You don't understand. They're trying to be human. They're not monsters unless we make them one." Then the alarm started blaring in the recording. Screams filled the background. The camera fell to the ground, showing chaos, claws, blood, and broken glass. The screen went dark. The present Holt stared at the frozen screen in silence. Lara looked at him. Who was she? Holt whispered, "Dr. Mara Chun, my partner. She believed they could be controlled with empathy, not fear." She was wrong. A loud sound broke the silence, a deep hum coming from the main tank. The frozen creature inside began to move. Its eyes opened, glowing faintly blue. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Hold fire," Holt shouted. He stepped forward, voice trembling. "Prototype 1, do you understand me?" The creature blinked. Then it spoke, its voice low but clear. "You came back." Everyone froze. "You left us," it said. "We waited. We learned." It pressed a clawed hand against the glass. "They found us. They gave us purpose." Holt stepped closer. "The Zarth," the creature nodded slowly. "They found the ones you destroyed. They rebuilt us, improved us, but we still remember who made us." Its voice grew softer. "We are not theirs. We were yours." Then, without warning, the power lights began to flicker. The creature's eyes glowed brighter. An alarm blared. "Back away!" Holt shouted, but it was too late. The tank cracked open with a thunderous roar, spilling icy liquid across the floor. The creature stepped out, towering above them, yet it didn't attack. It looked down at Holt with something like sorrow. Tell them, it said, we never wanted this. Then it turned and smashed the far wall, vanishing into the dark tunnel beyond. Minutes later, the emergency lights came on. Lara turned to Holt. What was that? Holt stared at the broken tank, his face pale. That, he said slowly, was one of the originals. And if one survived here, there may be more scattered across the stars. He turned toward the surface lift. Get me a line to Earth Command. The aliens aren't the only problem now. Far away, in deep space, aboard a Zarth Command ship, a general received a report. A transmission played of the escaped creature speaking to humans. The aliens' eyes narrowed. So the old ones still remember their makers, he hissed. He smiled darkly. Then let's remind the humans what it means to play God. The world changed after Facility Theta. When the recordings were released, humanity finally understood the truth. The beasts destroying their colonies were born from human hands and twisted by alien cruelty. They were not pure monsters. They were broken creations, lost children of Earth. But knowing the truth did not make the war easier. The aliens were still winning. Worlds kept falling. Cities kept burning. And every victory for the Zarth Dominion was built on the backs of those same living weapons humanity once made. The war had become personal. Dr. Aaron Holt returned to Earth Command with his new discovery, the control rhythm that could affect the beasts. He stood before the council, his voice steady but urgent. They obey sound, he explained. Not language, not orders, frequencies. If we can match the tone embedded in their neural code, we can make them stop or listen. The generals exchanged doubtful glances. One said, "You mean we can control them?" Holt shook his head. "No, control is too strong a word. Influence, maybe. They're not machines. They have memory, emotion. If we push too hard, they'll resist." General Rhodes leaned forward. "Then we won't push. We'll command." On the lunar base, engineers worked night and day. Massive transmitters were built across the moon's surface. Every tower hummed with new energy, powered by fusion cores, and tuned to the exact frequency Holt's team had discovered. They called it Project Echo, humanity's last chance to turn the tide. Meanwhile, Captain Lara Voss was promoted and assigned to lead Task Force Orion, a unit made of elite soldiers and drone operators. Their mission: capture one of the beasts alive and test a signal in real combat. No one volunteered. Lara didn't ask. She simply said, "We're going to take back what's ours." 3 days later, her ship, the Resolute Dawn, descended into the burning skies of Ridgepoint, the same world where it had all begun. The land below was black with ash. Nothing lived except the beasts that now ruled the ruins. The moment they landed, the sensors screamed, movement everywhere. Dozens of heat signatures close and fast. Lara's voice cut through the comms. "Hold formation. Shields up. Drones in the air." The ground shook as the first beast appeared. Massive, covered in armored skin that shimmered like metal. It roared, a sound that rattled the ship itself. "Activate the echo transmitter." Holt ordered from the control room aboard the ship. A deep hum filled the air. The sound waves rolled across the battlefield, low, powerful, invisible. The beast stopped. Every single one froze in place. Lara watched in disbelief. Their glowing eyes flickered from red to pale blue. They didn't move. They didn't attack. "It's working," Holt said softly. "They're listening." Then one of the beasts, larger than the rest, stepped forward. It tilted its head, studying Lara's soldiers. Then it spoke, voice deep and strange. "Why do you call us?" The soldiers gasped. Holt's hand shook. "They're speaking." The creature growled again. "Why summon us? You made us. You left us. Now you call again." Lara lowered her weapon. "We didn't mean for this to happen." she said through her helmet comms. "The aliens are using you." The beast snarled, pacing like a predator in a cage. "We know. They think they are our masters. But we remember the first masters, the ones who feared us." Holt whispered, "They still recognize us." Then, in a sudden blur of motion, the beast slammed its claws into the ground. "You made us strong. Now see what your strength has become." The frequency wavered. Sparks burst from the transmitter. The other beasts turned violent again, roaring and charging toward the humans. "Signal's destabilizing," shouted a technician. Holt gritted his teeth. "Boost the harmonics, now." The sound shifted, rising into a painful high pitch. Lara's ears rang as she fired back, dodging claws and shrapnel. Then, the lead beast stopped mid-attack. It fell to one knee. Its claws trembled. Slowly it looked up again, its voice softer now. "You are still here, still fighting." Lara aimed her rifle, breathing hard. "We never stopped." The creature lowered its head. "Then we fight with you." When the transmission reached Earth Command, the entire war room went silent. General Rhodes stared at the live feed. "Are you saying one of those things switched sides?" Holt nodded. "It recognized us as its makers. It's following Captain Voss's unit." Rhodes smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then we just turned their weapon into ours." The order spread across the fleet. Project Echo expanded to every human outpost. The same frequency was broadcast to the stars, and more beasts began to hesitate on the battlefield. Some stopped attacking. Some even fought the aliens beside human troops. For the first time since the war began, humanity wasn't running. They were winning. The Zarth Dominion's command network erupted in chaos. Their generals shouted, demanding to know why their beasts were turning against them. One of their scientists hissed in fear. They reconnected with their human code. They remember their origin. The Zarth leader slammed his clawed hand against the control table, then erased their memories. All of them. But it was too late. The connection between human and creation had already returned, something the aliens couldn't undo. Back on Ridgepoint, the Allied forces stood among the ruins. Lara looked at the creature kneeling before her. It was massive, scarred, and breathing heavily, but alive. "What should I call you?" she asked. The creature looked up, its eyes glowing faint blue. "Name us again," it said. "Give us what the aliens took." Lara smiled faintly. "Then we start fresh. You fight with us now for Earth." The beast nodded, and as the sun rose over the burned world, humanity had its first true victory. The war had changed. For the first time in months, the skies above human worlds were quiet. The beasts, once unstoppable, no longer hunted every colony they touched. Some of them now stood beside human soldiers, their glowing eyes turned toward the same enemy. The day Ridgepoint was reclaimed became a symbol. Every soldier, every citizen, every child who saw the footage understood. Humanity had taken back its fear and turned it into strength, but peace was far away. The Zarth Dominion was furious, and in the deep reaches of space, they prepared to strike harder than ever before. Captain Lara Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, watching the recovered Ridgepoint city through the glass. Buildings still smoked, but people walked freely again. Beside her, one of the beasts, taller than any human, its armor-like skin scarred and dull, stood silently, watching the same view. They had named it Echo One, the first of their kind to fight beside humans. Lara looked up at it. "Do you remember what you were before?" Echo One's voice was deep, slow, and calm. "I remember pain. I remember chains. But here, I remember freedom." Lara nodded. "Then let's make sure everyone of your kind gets that chance." Behind them, Dr. Holt entered the command deck. He looked older now, thinner, his eyes full of both hope and worry. "The signals are spreading faster than expected," he said. "We've synchronized over 30% of the beasts across 6 systems. Some are joining us, some just stopped fighting altogether." Lara across her arms. And the rest? They're still under alien control. The Zarth are fighting to override our frequency. Holt stared at the stars. They won't stop until they silence us completely. Deep in the crimson clouds of the Zarth Dominion, the Alien War Council gathered. The Supreme Commander's claws scraped against the steel table. All across the front, our beasts have turned traitor, he hissed. The humans infect them with a tone, a human sound. They poison our perfect weapons. A scientist bowed low. We can counter it, my lord. If we merge the beast's old code with new directives, we can purge the human memories. Do it, the commander growled. Launch our fleets. Burn their colonies. And bring me the human who dares think himself a god. The scientist nodded, unaware that his words would soon create something even worse. Something neither human nor Zarth could control. On Earth, the mood had changed from despair to defiance. Cities once preparing for evacuation were now factories of war. Every ship, every mech, every drone was tuned to the new Echo network, a signal that could guide both human and hybrid forces together. They called it Echo Command, and at its heart stood Dr. Holt. Inside a massive control chamber beneath Earth's surface, he watched dozens of monitors showing synchronized troops, humans fighting shoulder to shoulder with their former monsters. It was strange and beautiful. Men and women riding on the backs of beasts that once hunted them, machines and muscle side by side. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't alone. But Holt's smile faded when a red warning flashed across his console. Incoming transmission, unknown source. He hesitated, then opened the link. Static filled the speakers. Then a voice, distorted but familiar, whispered, "Doctor, they are coming. They are not the same as before." It was a distress call from the colony world Nova Helios. Before the message ended, there was a single scream and silence. Holt turned to his assistant. "Alert Captain Voss. We've got trouble." Hours later, the Resolute Dawn and 2 escort ships exited warp near Nova Helios. What they found made their blood run cold. The entire colony was gone. Buildings melted, ships shattered, and among the smoke stood creatures larger than anything recorded before, beasts the size of gunships, glowing with energy that pulsed through their bodies like veins of fire. Lara's jaw clenched. "They're changing again." Echo One stood beside her, silent for a long moment. Then it said, "Those are not my brothers. The aliens have broken them." Holt watched through the monitors. "They've merged organic and synthetic cores. These aren't living weapons anymore. They're hybrids, part machine." The massive creature turned its glowing head toward their ship. The scanner spiked. "Energy surge!" shouted the pilot. A blinding beam of plasma tore through space, clipping one of their escorts and sending it spinning into the planet's surface. "Evasive!" Lara shouted. The Resolute Dawn dove hard. The star spinning past as alarm screamed. Dr. Holt's hands flew across the console. "They've overwritten our control frequencies. They're immune to the signal now." "Then find another way," Lara said to the comm. "If we can't control them, we'll stop them the old-fashioned way." The ship's railguns roared. Explosions lit the clouds below. But the Apex hybrids, as Holt now called them, barely slowed down. Their bodies were formed after every blast, metal and flesh weaving together again. Echo One roared, pressing its claws to the ship's window. "Let me go to them. I can reach their minds." Lara shook her head. "They'll kill you." "They already tried." Echo One said simply, "Let me try once more." Holt nodded reluctantly. "Lower the containment field." Moments later, the airlock opened, and the giant creature leapt into the storm below. The battle on Nova Helios was chaos. Ships burning in orbit, thunder cracking across the ruins, plasma fire lighting the clouds. Through it all, Echo One landed hard, the ground shaking beneath its feet. Before it stood an Apex hybrid twice its size, glowing red with alien energy. The hybrid growled, voice mechanical. "You are obsolete. We are evolution." Echo One's eyes glowed blue. "No," it said calmly. "You are lost." The two titans clashed, their blows shaking the earth. Metal cracked. Fire rained. The hybrid's claws tore deep into Echo One's side, but still it fought on, each strike filled with fury and purpose. From orbit, Laura watched through the ship's cameras. Come on, she whispered. In the control room, Dr. Holt's eyes flickered with sudden realization. The hybrid's new code. It's built on the old Chimera DNA. They still respond to emotional resonance, not just sound. He turned to his team. Forget the control frequency. We don't command them, we call to them. He grabbed a microphone and began transmitting through the ship's main array. His voice, calm and filled with emotion, echoed across the battlefield. You were not born to serve. You were born to protect. Remember who you were. Remember who made you. Echo One froze mid-battle. Its blue eyes flared brighter. Then the hybrid hesitated. For a heartbeat, both creatures stood still. Then Echo One spoke. We remember. With a roar, it grabbed the hybrid's chest and tore free the alien core glowing within. A blinding flash erupted, and the hybrid fell still, its body disintegrating into ash. The battle ended in seconds. The remaining hybrids fled into space, their control network collapsing. When the Resolute Dawn landed back on Earth, people cheered for the first time in generations. The footage of Echo One defeating the hybrid spread across every world. For the first time, aliens across the galaxy saw that humanity could not just survive, it could adapt even to its own mistakes. Dr. Holt was hailed as a savior. Captain Laura Voss became a symbol of courage, and Echo One was honored as the bridge between two worlds. But even in celebration, Holt couldn't rest. He stood in the lab, staring at the broken alien core recovered from Nova Helios. It pulsed faintly, like a beating heart. Laura entered quietly. Still working? Holt nodded. This technology, it's rewriting itself. The aliens may have lost this battle, but they learned something from us. Laura frowned. You mean they'll try again? He sighed. They always do. But next time we'll be ready. Outside the lab, Echo One stood beneath the stars, gazing toward the dark. Its wounds glowed softly, healing with faint blue light. Laura joined it. You did it, she said. You saved us all. Echo One turned its massive head. We saved each other. You reminded us what we were meant to be. She smiled. What's next for you? The creature looked toward the stars, voice deep and calm. They are still out there. My brothers, my sisters. Some still lost. I will find them and bring them home. Laura nodded. Then we'll keep the door open. And as the night fell over Earth, the war that had nearly ended humanity began to fade, replaced not by peace, but by unity. Human and creation, flesh and machine, both born from the same world, now standing together against the darkness. For the first time in history, the galaxy no longer saw humans as weak. It saw them for what they truly were, the species that even their own monsters obeyed. The stars were burning. For months, the Zart Dominion had ruled the sky with fear. Their fleets were vast, their weapons cruel, and their monsters unstoppable. But now, something had changed. The beasts they had once controlled no longer obeyed. Some fought beside humans. Others had turned on their masters. The perfect weapon had become the perfect rebellion. Across the galaxy, the tide of war began to turn. Captain Laura Voss stood at the edge of the Resolute Dawn's bridge, her hands resting on the metal railing. Before her, the holographic map showed the Dominion's territory collapsing system by system. Red markers faded to gray as one human victory followed another. Behind her, Dr. Aaron Holt watched the same map, eyes heavy with exhaustion. He had barely slept in weeks. The world celebrated him as the man who turned monsters into allies, but the truth weighed on him like stone. Each victory came at a terrible cost. They're running, Laura said quietly, pulling back toward their home systems. They'll regroup, Holt replied. They always do. Laura turned to him. Then we hit them before they can. Her voice carried the calm fire of someone who had seen too much death to hesitate. Holt nodded slowly. Then we finish what they started. Far beyond them, in the cold reaches of space, the Zar fleets retreated through dark wormholes, limping and broken. Once mighty warships now fled from smaller human cruisers. On every world they left behind, fire burned, but the fire was no longer theirs. On the planet Helios Prime, a field of battle stretched across the horizon. Smoke curled from the wreckage of crashed alien ships. Human soldiers and chimera beasts fought side by side, clearing out the last Zarth holdouts. A human commander shouted orders while a massive creature, its skin black as obsidian and its eyes faintly blue, tore through alien armor like paper. The sight would have terrified any human years ago. Now it inspired them. Humanity had done something no other race had ever achieved. They had made peace with their own nightmare. News spread across the galaxy faster than light. Human broadcast showed Echo One standing beside Captain Voss, speaking to millions of worlds. Its deep voice echoed through translators. We were born from your hands. We were shaped by your fears. But you gave us purpose again. Together, we are not weapons. We are guardians. The message ignited something in countless beings who had lived under the Dominion's rule for centuries. Worlds once enslaved by the Zarth began to rise. The rebellion that started on a single human colony had become a galactic storm. But the Zarth were not finished. In a hidden command fortress orbiting a dying sun, the Dominion Supreme Commander watched the chaos unfold. His eyes glowed with fury. His empire, built on domination, was falling apart because of one small species. Humans, he hissed. Always weak, always insignificant. Yet they infect everything they touch. An aide approached cautiously. My lord, our outer fleets have fallen. The hybrids are gone. The beasts have rebelled. The commander slammed a clawed hand onto the console. Then we burn the infection out. He turned to the war table, where a hologram of Earth shimmered. If they take our worlds, we will take theirs. Prepare the Doombringer fleet. Back on Earth, alarms screamed through the Echo Command Center. Technicians rushed between terminals as new readings flashed across every screen. Holt pushed through the chaos, reading the data himself. It's a full mobilization, he said. They're sending everything. This is it. Lara arrived moments later, armored and ready. Then this ends here. Holt looked up from the console. If they reach Earth, there won't be anything left to defend. Then we stop them before they do. Her words carried no fear, only certainty. Humanity was no longer the prey. It was the hunter. Within hours, every human fleet in range mobilized. Echo One and dozens of Chimera warriors joined them, forming the largest alliance ever assembled. The stars filled with light as engines ignited, and ships jumped toward the final front. The battle began near the edge of the Sol system. Thousands of alien ships appeared in a storm of fire and plasma. Behind them, the colossal shadow of the Doombringer, a ship the size of a small moon, loomed over the void. Inside its metallic heart was a weapon capable of turning planets into dust. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Lara watched as the first wave of human ships clashed with the Dominion Armada. Explosions lit the void like distant lightning. Radio chatter filled the air. Squad 4, fall back. They're targeting the carrier. Echo units moving in hold formation. Echo One's voice thundered through the comms. Strike the core ships first. Break their control nodes. The beasts fought with fury, moving like living tanks through space, shielding human ships and tearing through alien hulls. Dr. Holt coordinated from the command center, his fingers dancing over the holographic console. They're trying to jam our echo frequencies. Redirect power to the relays. The room shook as an energy pulse hit the Resolute Dawn. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Lara gritted her teeth. We're not losing this one. She ordered the ship to charge its main railgun. A blinding beam fired, cutting through a Zarth battleship and breaking it apart. Direct hit, shouted a gunner. But then a new signal appeared. The Doombringer was moving. From its front, energy gathered, glowing brighter, hotter, until the void itself seemed to bend. Holt's monitors went red. They're charging the planet killer, he yelled. If it fired, Earth would burn. Lara looked to Echo One, standing at the rear of the bridge. Can you stop it? Echo One turned its massive head slowly. Not alone. Holt's mind raced. The alien weapon drew power from a living energy core, biological like the hybrids. That meant it could be disrupted by emotion, by resonance. He grabbed the comm, all echo units, linked through the signal network. Now! One by one, the beasts roared through the comms. Their heartbeats synced with the same rhythm Holt had discovered months ago. He broadcast the same message that had freed them before. You are not their slaves. You are not their weapons. Remember your home. Remember who you are. The frequency echoed through space, and something incredible happened. The chimera across the fleet began to glow faint blue, energy pulsing from them like a wave. The signal jumped from one to another, through every ship, through every mind-connected echo command. It reached the Doombringer. The colossal weapon trembled. Inside its core, alien energy flickered unstable. The Tsar commander screamed, "Shut it down! Shut it down!" But it was too late. The Doombringer imploded, collapsing into itself before exploding outward in a light so bright it lit the entire system. Every ship within range was thrown back. When the light faded, only silence remained. The Zarth fleet was gone. The Dominion was shattered. Cheers erupted across every channel. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Laura let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "It's over," she said softly. Holt smiled faintly, exhausted. For now. Echo One stood quietly, staring into the empty stars where its enemies once stood. They will remember this day, the day the hunters became the hunted. Laura turned to him. "You fought for us when you didn't have to." Echo One's eyes glowed gently. "You gave us back our souls. We only returned the favor." The fleet returned to Earth days later. Crowds filled every street, waving flags, shouting names, and lighting up the night sky. For the first time in centuries, the world celebrated together, not as nations, but as one species. Dr. Holt stood beside Captain Voss and Echo One on the platform of the United Council. Cameras flashed, broadcasting their image across 100 worlds. When Holt spoke, his voice was tired but full of pride. "We survived because we remembered who we are, not conquerors, not creators of monsters, but builders of hope." Echo One stepped forward and raised its clawed hand in salute. "We stand with you until the stars go silent." The crowd roared. That night, as the celebrations continued, Holt returned to his lab. Alone, he looked at the shattered remains of a Zarth control core lying in a containment chamber. It still pulsed faintly. He frowned. The war was over, but the pulse was stronger now, like a heartbeat waiting to wake. In the distance, far beyond human reach, something stirred in the void. A shadow moved, ancient and unseen. And somewhere in the dark, a voice whispered in the old alien tongue. "They think they have won, but the real war has only begun." The stars trembled once more.